This is the Art of Darkness podcast with Kevin Kautzman.
And Brad Kelly. We're a couple of very online writers interested in the dark side of what drives creative people to create against all odds.
This show is about art and the people who make it, what it costs them, and what it takes to bring something unique and impactful into the world.
Each episode, we excavate the life and work of an artist you might think you know.
Don't worry, they're all safely dead.
On every episode, we try and find out just what the hell was wrong with them and how they worked through their darkness to create something that lives on after them and continues to move culture.
Find us online at artofdarkpod.com and on Twitter at artofdarkpod. Oh, we've got a fun one for you. This is our second watch along for Art of Darkness, which is an indulgence that we grant ourselves. It's not a core episode, it's a dark room episode. And frankly, this episode hangs loose on its own. We haven't done Robert Shaw yet, although I think, Brad, this is going to kind of demand that we pick Shaw up at some point.
That would be a good episode.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and we're joined by hitherto Blauergeist, friend of the show, who did the Disney episode with us, Jacob Everett. Jacob, how are you?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm good.
And one of the reasons I want to point out, one of the reasons I think this is coming together, among other things, is Jacob runs, for people who don't know, people probably do know if they're listening to this, Jacob runs Apocalypse Confidential, maybe the most exciting literary journal going right now. And this summer, they are doing Summer of the Shark. I don't know, if Jacob, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're doing our special for this summer is Summer of the Shark. Just because, in our editorial team chat, I think it was actually Dawson who just randomly sort of was like, man, we should do a Shark Week special early on in the year when we were just sort of getting year 2 going, because, growing up, Shark Week has always loomed large. And then, just sharks in general and, Jaws especially. And, sharks are just such a kind of pivotal creature in, popular culture and mythology and all that stuff. And there's you have all kind, I actually have a book near me that's sort of selections from old men's pulp magazines featuring sharks. So there's always been this cultural fascination with sharks.
That's like a guy fighting it on the front, probably.
Yeah, exactly. With a diver's knife or something like that.
Right.
And so it just seemed like a cool sort of out of the box, because our whole kind of, our, wheelhouse, as it were, our wheelhouse is sort of occult and underworld kind of stuff. And it just seemed like a cool sort of out of the box idea to basically what is this sort of Apocalypse Confidential vision of the shark.
Yeah,
and
I love it. Yeah, that should be
Right.
cool, man. When are submissions due, and when is this edition coming out, you think?
Right. So submissions are due July 31st, end of day, whatever that means for you. We're not going to be actually you sent it to us at 12:01 August 1st. So we're scrapping it.
Right.
Submissions due July 31st. And then we're going to have it out for everyone's edification and horror on August 19th, Friday.
Oh, nice.
Hey,
okay.
that's my birthday.
All right.
Hey,
All right.
very cool.
The Shark, Summer
It'll
of
be
the
our
Kevin.
birthday present for you.
There you go.
All right,
Nice.
right on.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
we're going for that kind of that sort of tail end of summer. Everyone's all hot and sweaty and tired from the sun.
Mhm.
And, maybe had a few brews and you're on the beach and you decide to go for a swim to cool off. And then you're just kind of lazily sort of treading water. And then suddenly you feel a tug on your foot. And then the water around you turns red. And that's the vibe we're doing.
That's so unsettling. It really is, man. Maybe I don't know if it's just growing up with this movie or what, but yeah. Any water-based attacks are terrifying.
Because you're SOL and, because it's because if you're getting attacked, by a bear or something, which is horrible, at least you're on land.
Yeah.
But if you get attacked by a shark or, barracuda or something, you're doubly, SOL. I don't know if we could swear on this podcast.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah.
You're doubly fucked in the water because
That's true.
not only are you bleeding out and your guts are
Yeah.
everywhere, but you're drowning too.
Yeah, you can't move effectively out there. You're like a baby. Like you don't have any business out there to begin with. So, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you've had your leg torn off. There was a tweet earlier that from an account called Ticklish Thug at Prince Coochie, and the tweet is a banger. It says, "Shark Week is the white man's Ramadan."
I don't even really know what that means, but
I don't either. But it's true.
It's true.
It just
somehow.
feels true. It feels right. And so Art of Darkness is a podcast where we typically do profiles of artists. This is a standalone episode where, again, we're going to indulge ourselves, watch one of my very favorite movies, probably my favorite film, if not like the film that I respect the most, at least like just my absolute favorite. I grew up on this film. I've seen it 50 times. And we always do 30 minutes ish after each episode for our Patreon subscribers, patreon.com/artofdarkpod. We call those After Dark. And if you want to listen to that, this episode, I'm going to read from the Jaws log from Carl Gottlieb, who was an actor in the movie, had a small part. He initially had a bigger part, but it ended up getting cut. It's that sequence where they go find Ben Gartner's boat, and it was going to be during the day, and he was in the scene and falls overboard, but they ended up scrapping him. He also was a screenwriter on the film. He punched up some of the early drafts to add a little more humor. And I'm going to read from this book at least one chapter about how the rights to the book were initially secured. And this guy is a really, really funny kind of classic Hollywood writer. We'll probably also talk a little bit about kind of the vibe from the movie. And the idea behind this is we want to make this interesting for you, whether or not you have the movie screening in front of you. But if you want to listen to it watching the film, this might be a fun way to do it. But, people know this movie so well that I also think, like, in the theater of your mind, you're probably not going to have any trouble imagining, the scenes as we go through here. What do you think, boys? Should we kick it off? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let her rip. I have this on. By the way, I have this on Amazon, and there's something called X-Ray where there's like trivia and bits and bobs.
I kind of like it. I hated X-Ray at first, but I kind of like it.
Well, I think for this purpose, it might give us something to kind of like riff off. So let's go 3, 2, 1 and press play. Sometimes things are out of sync, so initially we'll kind of we'll find a little moment where it's like, okay, are we all in sync? So ready? Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Do do. So here's some general trivia. Several decades after the film's release, Lee Farrow, who played Mrs. Kintner, walked into a seafood restaurant and noticed that the menu had an Alex Kintner sandwich. She commented that she had played his mother so many years before, and that it turned out that Alex Kintner was there. And it was like they embraced it, everything. And
oh wow,
it was like his restaurant.
Was he eaten by a shark in the movie? Is he eaten?
Yes,
by a shark?
He's the little boy who's
okay.
Who's eaten. Yeah, he's the boy. I think, what is it, the second victim?
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got Universal. What am I seeing? Let's go. Oh man. I mean, and this is Universal was sort of the last studio standing outside of Disney.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a Zanuck Brown production.
Okay, press pause.
Too.
Press pause. Pause.
Oh God.
And I will wait until I got it. Okay. Here we go. I don't have it yet.
3 leads.
I'm always so out of whack.
I'm sorry, Jacob. Did you say you had the 3 leads?
Yeah.
Is that where you're paused?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go to that, and then we'll count.
Roy Robert Richard.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm there.
Look, even the fonts here.
That font has always been very cool.
It's
like classic, like 70s.
Yeah, it hits me right in the feels. And of course, this is based on a best-selling novel. All right, let's go. On. I'm going to count us down. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. All right. The three: Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss.
I like that Robert Shaw is front and center on that, actually.
Yeah. Deservedly.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, of course. Yeah, what a fabulous introduction too. You start out, and of course Lorraine Gary, who's amazing. You've got and Murray Hamilton. Who doesn't love the mayor?
Oh, that's okay. Okay,
so
this
is
good.
You're the mayor of Shark City.
I mean, love his suits in this.
Oh man! General trivia: the average summer tourist population of Martha's Vineyard before the film was released was approximately 5,000 people. After it came out, the population skyrocketed to 15,000.
That's hilarious.
You're talking about his suits, Jacob?
Yeah, I just love Mayor Von Murray Hamilton's suits, like that one jacket with like the anchors on it. It's just classic.
It's so good. He's so sleazy. Yeah. It's wonderful. But then he has that moment of pathos that comes where he's like, Martin, my kids were on that beach too. Yeah. It's just like, oh man. And then we have these of course there's this like long-haired hippie thing going on.
Well, this is like the slasher movie trope, right?
100%.
Like, there's like 100%. A little bit of like, these kids might deserve it, kind of.
Yeah, and she kind of looks like Sally Hardesty in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, yeah, she does.
No.
I've always thought that whatever these are, this fencing is reminiscent of both like film stock, but also like the teeth of the shark. Yes. I think that there are things operating at multiple levels. You see a little bit of red there, kind of around the campfire, and I don't think we see red in much of the rest of the film. It's just not there outside of the blood in the water. Color. Brad, you're always talking about color in Breaking Bad, right?
Oh, yeah.
Color in Jaws is massive.
Yeah.
And so we got these kind of like broken, this weird kind of fencing. What is that? Is it to like, I don't even know what it is.
I think it used to be like not privacy fence, but just some kind of boundary fence previously.
Right. I mean, let's talk about what this really is, right? So here we have a promiscuous young woman volunteering herself to who we assume is a stranger. And now they're going to go skinny dipping.
Right.
She does this great move in the water.
That's impressive, actually. I don't know exactly how
she
you
was
do that.
If I recall correctly, she was a stunt woman.
Okay.
Mainly because she was like she was hired because she was one of them who's like, yeah, I'll get naked. And so they're like, all right, you're hired.
You're hired. I don't care.
Did she do the screaming in the studio, or was it someone else who did the screaming? I can't recall. There's a good documentary that comes with the film. Apparently this fellow was captured through local auditions. This guy.
No, the teenager.
He became a production assistant. Yeah, later after that. This is horrifying.
It is.
She's like, it's pure terror. And she starts getting dragged around.
And like they had her like on some rigs, like like just underwater that they would like pull her with. And like apparently they did cause real discomfort and pain. So
I bet.
Some of that screaming is probably method acting.
Yeah, and then they use that same rigging later in the movie Showgirls and the pool sex scene, I believe.
Are you serious?
I just made that up, but it looks almost the same as this. If you've ever seen Showgirls, the pool sex scene.
Oof. Right. Yeah, she was. As well as moving her about in the water, the frame she was strapped into was breaking her ribs.
Oh my God.
In a radio interview, she denied being injured. And of course, this is the ultimate whiskey dick. This is like male. This male has just been completely cuckolded in the most horrific fashion.
Yeah. Shark stole his girl.
Yeah. The shark stole his girl. And here comes Brody. And Brody is 100% hungover here. He has
Oh,
a
yeah.
hangover. His drinking is an important part of the film.
Mm.
Yeah, because he's like a his character has grown more and more fascinating. Because like at first he just first time watched it, and that'd be maybe a cool thing to go over in a bit. Like when we first saw Jaws, is like first time seeing this like in kindergarten, like on AMC or something. He just is like the sort of hero cop, but as you watch it, 50 times over the course of your life, like he becomes more and more complex. Like he's this like kind of a sissy in a lot of ways. Like he's this like cosmopolitan, like city cop who's like
he
definitely an
already
alcoholic booze bag, and like he just it's kind of like he comes to Amity just to basically have like a vacation job.
Right.
And he's already on his pension. He's already on his pension. Is I think the implication.
Yeah.
And he's here, and this should be super easy. There are no murders. He's here to coast, and to be the boss too. I don't think he was, back in the city. He was the chief or the boss. Right. Fun fact: that dog that you meet at the beginning, that was Steven Spielberg's dog.
Keeping that budget, anywhere you can make a penny on that budget.
Oh, especially in this film.
Yeah.
Because the first two acts of this film are straight ahead filmmaking, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. It's the third act is where they broke ground and did extraordinary things.
When you start seeing the actual animatronic shark and stuff, right?
Yeah, and just filming on the water. Full stop.
Right.
I mean, and when we get there, you can sort of imagine it. So now yellow comes into play here and starts to become an important color. You do have a little bit of red in his sirens. Yeah. But red is so infrequently used in the film. It's very, it's intentional. Yeah. And Jacob, Brody's character, again, like you say, he's just this, when you're a kid, he's just this heroic, there's more yellow. And that's orange. That's not red. I first saw this on TBS in a version that I'm sure was cut somewhat to be made a little more tame. So I had different experiences watching this film where, like, when I finally got my hands on a VHS copy, that was I guess like the director's cut or the release. There were moments where I was like, wait, I don't remember that from TV.
Yeah, like especially like when the leg falls to the bottom of the estuary. It's like I didn't see that on TV.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, I definitely saw this. Recorded on a VHS tape off of television when I was
look at
first grade or something.
The fencing there, how reminiscent that is of like Teeth.
It is.
You see that? There's all this like subconscious stuff happening. In a funny way, it's a Hitchcock film.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Oh, and then she's already been eaten by crabs, and you see the rings on her fingers. And
the crabs is a nice touch, actually. It makes it that much more. She's been drawn into this kind of primal thing. It's creepy.
We have this anxiety, and this gets back to that thing we were talking about dying in the water. You want, as awful as it is to think about death, you want a good burial. Nobody wants to be torn to pieces before they're buried. What an awful thing to think about.
Yeah.
Closed casket.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this is so funny. She starts talking about the kids karate chopping the picket fences, right? Yeah.
What I love about this movie is you watch it 50 times and you always like notice new different details of it.
Yeah, he misspelled coroner's office there. It just says coroner's office. Corner. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever noticed that because I'm watching it. Yeah, when Brody is in his office typing a coroner's report, he misspells coroner.
Because he's probably never had to do it before.
Yeah. Well, right.
Yeah. That's specifically a coroner's report.
Yeah. Well, that or he might be a little shook.
Yeah, he probably is.
Yeah, and I love the picket fences. We are in beautiful, even if it's this resort town, it's this Norman Rockwell, middle America. You got the white fencing.
Oh, yeah.
And here comes the marching band, and it's just And
And I think, I mean, I went to Martha's Vineyard when I was a kid, and Martha's Vineyard is like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I don't know what it's like now, but
Yeah. It's pure Americana. Amity Island, 4th of July celebration, 50th annual regatta. Yeah. It's just pure. And this guy, and of course Brody is a city dude who's
Yeah.
he thinks he's on a long holiday toward retirement.
right.
And I love the procedural aspect where it's like they don't have any of like they're not equipped to do like the beach closed signs, so they have to go to the store and they have to get all the stuff, and it just shows how sort of out of their element they are with all of this, and how like these are like the things. I don't know. I'm very interested in like the sort of like step by step things, especially with regards to like this kind of like. Because I'm interested in like the kind of maybe parapolitical underworld implications that you can draw into this movie. Because like one of the big things that I'm interested in is like how in the original novel there's like all this subplot with like the mafia like and their real estate holdings, and that's why they refuse to close the beaches. And actually,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like the mayor who's like you see in the background shots here, like Von Realty. So it's like suggested and like on that car right there that like he had been like, a former real estate tycoon who like basically buys his way into the mayorship. And there's that beautiful suit jacket of his.
Nice.
And he's like sort of in the pocket of like the, New England mafia. And this is like a great sort of moment because, even though it's ostensibly like this kind of summer blockbuster suspense adventure flick, Spielberg is still kind of influenced by like the paranoid conspiracy thriller sort of milieu of the 70s. And so this scene where like the town elders are basically pressuring Brody to keep quiet about a shark is like Spielberg's version of like, I don't know, Parallax View or All the President's Men or something like that.
Yeah. No, I love that. I could definitely see that. And yeah, I noticed that that's really interesting to me that there's more of this sort of mafioso stuff in the book because it is here in this if you're looking for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not quite on the surface.
Brody only lets go of the side of this thing when Vaughn kind of pulls him away. Brody
hates the water.
He hates the water, and now he hates it even more. He's got this idea that you could see, and he's playing it like, oh, there's something in here that will kill us. Yeah, tremendous.
I love that Cadillac.
Oh yeah, man. Apparently, Spielberg was an Eagle Scout.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently there's no mile swim merit badge. I love that he gets the chonker to go into the water. Talk about a little bit of humor here. And Kittner has the red trunks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And his mother has the yellow hat. And of course, they're setting up the yellow buoys later in the movie to have all of this weird subconscious Freudian significance. Right? She's got yellow on the mind. Mm-hmm. There's all this like interesting, very, very sly production design stuff. Mm-hmm. And these wipe cuts that are coming up are very famous for the tension that it creates, obviously in the audience. And we're being trained to look through Brody's eyes and to look through the shark's eyes. Brody and the shark are twinned in the movie. They're paired together. Brody is the shark. The shark is Brody. The shark is Brody's destiny. And then, of course, the dog is the second victim. Pippin, the dog.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, the dog's not going to make it. Here we go. And then you got the yellow and the red paired together there with the little floating device, and then Kittner. These shots right here.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And it's reminiscent of like a shark thrusting its tail through the water. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, and now you're back. Anyway, Brad, you were saying?
Yeah. I was just going to say, you think they just, for production reasons, they just killed the dog back in the 70s?
What, just to get rid of the dog? Or?
No, just because it's easier to just do it than fake it.
I don't know.
God.
Maybe if it was an
Jesus.
Italian, I feel like if it was an Italian shark flick, they would. You know, those Italians, they like to kill their turtles in the
Yeah.
cannibal.
Oh man.
So,
Jeez,
you know,
Brad.
I don't know.
This is Art of Darkness.
Brad's getting dark.
Yeah, Brad's getting real dark. Goodness. Yeah, and they're all here. They are. They're all on the beach. Here's Brody. He's super tense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here go the kids,
Sweating.
including his own kids.
Yeah. They're all going in the water. So they haven't declared it like publicly that the shark attack has happened.
He was
talked
compromised.
out of it.
He was
Right.
convinced that it was a boating accident or whatnot, and he bought the BS. Yeah, that's one bad hat, Harry.
You don't go in the water at all, do you? Yeah.
Yeah, there
I
go. his
love those
kids.
orange and white striped, like, what are they, like restroom, like those background,
Yeah,
like
changing rooms. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do too.
Oh, there's so many kids.
Right, and the tension that's already been established here is just out of control.
Yeah.
There's more yellow in the background and in the foreground.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a little toddler son, and the idea, I mean, it's like brutal. What happens to Brody here? Because he compromises himself, and that he puts his own family at risk based on his own moral failing. He knew the right thing to do, but he didn't do it. There's an argument people make sometimes that this is sort of Spielberg vaguely talking about World War II and America's reluctance to intervene.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Here we go.
My God.
And that is gruesome. They did not show that on TBS.
No.
And the soundtrack, this movie without the soundtrack would not be what it is.
Yeah.
Or the editing. And they both won Oscars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Just
Brody
terrific.
runs right up to the edge and doesn't actually get in.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I mean, we're really watching a movie about a man having to confront his destiny.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Miss Kittner, one of the things that I only realized, as I kind of matured and watched the movie, is that she's clearly past child rearing.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
She can't have any more kids. She's done.
Yeah.
I mean, and so and what a great actress here. The amount she gives is just pretty incredible. What a scene. Here we go. And now you have this municipal pandemonium. And
Right.
of course, this level of like freak out is how America operates now constantly.
Oh yeah, no, it's like this is the 11 we are turned to at all times. Yeah. Except it's like tiny stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
often.
Yeah. You got the see, that's Carl Gottlieb there behind him.
Oh, in the blue suit?
Behind Vaughn, yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it is. Yeah. We will read from his book on the After Dark episode, artofdarkpod.com, patreon.com/artofdarkpod. Yeah. Well, this is one of the greatest entrances in cinema. Full stop. When Quint appears here by scraping his fingers on the chalkboard.
Yes.
The little American flag. We're coming to order.
Mm-hmm.
Brody there, looking really uncomfortable. This is exactly what he wanted to avoid.
It's like this is supposed to be the vacation job, not
Get too old for
also
that shit.
how it's like you get implications of like the sort of people's roles and like they're being in the town leadership, but other than Brody and Vaughn and maybe a couple others, it's never explicitly said. But like that lady in the yellow turtleneck, like you get some sense that she's like the grand dame of the town,
Yeah.
but like never explicitly said who she is.
Old money. I noticed behind the men in an earlier shot, there was a calendar. And again, there's that play with the subconscious placement of items that get you thinking, oh man, this is important. Time here. if they close the beaches? Is it because if they don't open until August, and of course they all totally rely on the summer money, and he has no clue. He has see the calendar there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just sly little things.
Yeah, Brody's just getting paid by he's just getting paid out of the. Yeah, so he doesn't have to worry about it. Yeah, these small town things are interesting. Like
these are his employers.
Right. Did somebody draw a shark? He drew a shark on the chalkboard. Yeah,
that's the implication. While they were bickering, he drew the shark. Y'all know me. Y'all know what I do for a living.
I don't have any tattoos, but if I ever got a tattoo, it would be of that shark drawing on the chalkboard.
Is that right?
Yeah. And what a sly move to get the shark back into your mind. Just a chalkboard drawing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Quint has two great speeches. This is a great speech for his entrance, and then the Indianapolis speech later, of course. And then his hand is to the right. His factotum goober lump and pro hand.
His sidekick with the orange hat, who I think he was like a town local who so many of these roles were just filled up by town locals who still live in the town. Like in that later scene when the kids do that prank with the shark fin head, the kid with one of those kids is now the chief of police in the town where they filmed this. So it's they're a lot of them are locals, and a lot of them were locals who stayed there, which is cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
One thing I noticed about this scene for the first time is that the status in the town comes from the back of the room all the way to the front of the room. So you've got the gas station attendant is right near Quint, and then it just levels up the closer you get all the way up to the mayor. Is what it seemed to be to me.
Yeah.
And I love the tension between Quint and Vaughn. It's they know each other, and there's a past there when he's Quint. You can that'll be what they have to when they make a prequel, when they do the big Disney reboot of this.
I will firebomb the theaters if they ever try to remake us. Look at how they're sitting in the water here, over the water,
right?
And this is another example of the genius of Spielberg in the creation of the film. He was 26 years old when he was doing this.
That's
just
wild.
Giving him a book where you see shark bites and you see shark attacks, and it's such a cheap way to keep the shark. And here now Brody's drinking again, a big tumbler full of whiskey there.
Yeah.
What does she say? You want to get drunk and fool around?
Yeah, because they're on vacation.
Yeah. This is his vacation job. Yeah. Yeah. But again, and Brody, his obsession with the shark has now begun, and he cares enough to get all of these books, which is telling. You're rooting for him at this point, and it's he's a family man. And look at this, and his kids are in the water. Oh man.
I love this part when she sees the shark bursting through the boat, and then she yells at the kids.
I do too, in the book. And again, just using an existing illustration from an existing book for this great dramatic effect. Again, the first 2/3 of this movie are, not saying anybody could make it, but it's not a special effects bonanza. But then you get into the final third, and it's all of this incredible footage on the water. Oh yeah, here's a great example of where, again, they throughout this scene, as these goofballs use his wife's roast to try to catch the shark off the dock, there's this great, they establish the rule that we can see the shark in our mind's eye. We know the shark is there because of an object that's moving around. That's established here, which is so important for the third act. And if we saw much more of the shark in this movie, the movie would have been a disaster. Would have been unwatchable.
Oh yeah, it's like Alien. right? It's
Yeah.
like the first
Well,
Alien.
they pitched Alien as Jaws in space.
Right.
So, yeah, these knuckleheads. And this is quite comic. This is like this is rather Beckettian, this sequence. You got these two goofballs, they're in for some trouble. This is what I'm talking about, where now, it's just planting all these things in your mind where you can see these sharks, and it's such a low-cost approach to it. Yeah, the tank in the mouth of the shark, setting that up for later. It's going to prove to be very important. Oh, man.
Yeah, the shark attack photos, like the injuries. Because it's not like a neat like cookie cutter shark bite. It's like just shredded like muscle and stuff.
Right.
Gnarly as hell.
If you're not into this movie at this point, I don't know what to tell you. You're not a fan of film, or I guess maybe it's not your thing, but you just have to respect the level of, again, tension and drama that's been built in. How many minutes in are we? I'm not even going to count, but we're not even that far in. And this poor dude gets dragged out into the water in his clothes. I always wonder about in movies where people end up in the water with all their clothes on. The first thing I do if that happens is I'm taking my stuff off. That's the first thing I'm doing in order to swim back. Because otherwise, you're going to get dragged down. I'm not keeping my shoes on. I'll tell you that much. This is so great. And the music.
What part of the country is Spielberg from? Is he like a New Yorker? What's anybody know?
He was like born in like Cincinnati or Cleveland, but he like grew up in Arizona.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
And like he has like a lot of, and actually, because there's a podcast I'm going to eventually start, so it's a tease for this. That's basically taking Spielberg's oeuvre, like film by film, and basically sort of examining the sort of secret, more of the parapolitical stuff, like the secret history of, the post-war century through his work. Because like there's all kinds of like weird stuff, like he like was able through his dad's connections, because his dad like did like the computer gadgetry stuff for like the U-2 spy plane. And so through connections with his dad, he was like able to like go onto like Air Force bases and like see like classified shit.
Oh,
and
interesting.
So he's like involved in that kind of like, he's like seeped in all of that kind of like Southwest desert high strangeness vibe.
Right. Well, and then now you got the feds in E.T. and then Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah, interesting. Super 8. I actually love Super 8. I don't know if you guys saw that one. So it's a late Spielberg. It's pretty good.
Hooper is so funny here. He comes on, and he's this tiny little guy. I mean, and you want to talk about 3 archetypes being developed. You've got Quint, the old man of the sea. You've got Brody, the kind of American everyman. And then you've got Hooper, the man of wealth and science. And, they're loading dynamite on the boat. Can you tell me if there's a good restaurant on the island? Yeah, you walk straight ahead. And that has to be Gottlieb kind of peppering these little bits of humor into the film. And thank goodness, because otherwise
Hollywood wisecracks.
Otherwise it would have been unbearable.
And like that lineage of like the kind of like New York or Hollywood by way of New York, or New York by way of Hollywood sort of like wisecracking sensibility it's in the lineage of the book too, because Peter Benchley, like his grandfather, I think, was Robert Benchley, who was part of like the Algonquin Round Table with like Dorothy Parker and all of those people who would basically just like sit around at some restaurant, the Algonquin Round Table, and just like be witty and drunk and stuff. So it is part of this like continuity of like New York and LA kind of like,
Yeah, and a lot of
wit.
a lot of theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love these two meet. They immediately kind of form a bond. This guy's an Islander, the guy in the front with the orange and the red cap. I mean, he was cast straight from Martha's Vineyard, and he's talking shit. I know these guys. I grew up with those guys in North Dakota. The same class of guy. Pretty funny. They're chumming in the water, and just again, this is who we are all the time now in America. This never stops.
Yeah.
This is just Twitter, but it's a bunch of boats. There's some anon throwing dynamite under and they're chumming the water. Right. Yeah. Use my pronouns or else. Okay, so here comes Hooper, and you can already tell. I mean, he's got equipment, he's recording, he's professional, he's college educated and not a state school. He's on a different league, from a different league than these guys.
Yeah,
and he's even his glasses have no frames. Very
right.
Just you could tell he's just urbane, and he's got there are no major organs remaining. Oof. Ugh. Do not smoke in here. He turns in. They all turn in such a great performance. There's a story about how after the premiere, I think it was. I don't know if do not smoke in here. I think I don't know if Shaw was there, but I know that these two, after the premiere, they went outside and they looked at each other and they just like screamed at each other and said, "We were great. We were great. This is amazing." They just knew they were part of something awesome.
That's
and after
cool.
the agony of the shoot, I mean, which went so long and was so torturous. A lot of waiting, a lot of the shark not working, Bruce the shark not working, the mechanical shark.
Yeah, I was trying to remember his name.
A lot of doubt, a lot of having to improvise. I think Shaw was famously a drinker, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
it might have been difficult to work with.
Yeah, there's a great book about Shaw, and it's called Hellraisers, and it's Robert Shaw, Robert Harris, Richard Burton, and then Peter O'Toole. And it's just, these four classic British Isles actors just, raising hell and like drinking a shit ton and stuff. And anyway, it'd be good resource for when you do that Robert Shaw episode.
That sounds like it. Yeah.
A lot of fun anecdotes.
And we will be doing a Robert Shaw episode on Art of Darkness.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
we might even ask our friend Blauer to come on.
What other films has he done?
Oh, well, I mean, he was in, I think maybe most famously, he was in The Sting. He was like the Mark in The Sting. Yeah. And he was in like Black Sunday, which was like terrorists hijack a blimp to blow it up at the Super Bowl, movie. He was the Red Grant, like the anti-James Bond villain in From Russia with Love.
Oh, okay.
And then he was in some other stuff, but not coming to mind right now.
Okay.
Well, he was like a classic sort of grizzled character actor kind of.
Right.
The Sting was also a Zanuck Brown production.
Ah, that's a great movie.
Was a big hit. Yeah. Tiger Shark. What? Here's Vaughn in another amazing suit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I love the earlier sort of you have a kind of allusion to Watergate, or I guess to the porno, when he says that the shark has a deep throat.
Oh. Yes.
Getting a little static in the background. I don't know if anybody's moving around or anything, but it's just
let's see if it's kind of staticky on my end, but I think it's my headphones.
Yeah. And again, Brody wants to be fooled again here, but he won't be fooled twice because he wants to believe. Yeah, and he's talking about the digestive system of the shark. And they're not going to cut the shark open on the dock here. What a nightmare.
Shark autopsy.
Yeah, I got 20 facts you might know about Jaws. Well, we know that. Yeah, well, this is interesting. Jaws began as a novel by Peter Benchley, one of the credited screenwriters on the movie. The book was inspired by a lifelong interest in sharks, especially a 1964 story about a fisherman named Frank Mundus who caught a 2-ton great white shark off the shore of Montauk, New York. Oh, yikes. Oh, and here comes Mrs. Kittner. And if that's her husband, again, that drives home the idea that they're done. They can't have another kid. It's over. No bueno. And that hit feels real, too.
They probably just had her hit him.
Probably.
I think it was real.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised.
Just cuffed to the side of the head. Andy deserves it.
Yeah,
Oof.
you knew. Yeah, I mean, what an archetypal moment. You've got the widow in black, in mourning, coming to confront you with your sins, like, yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
it has the quality of Greek tragedy. It really does.
Yeah, it does for being, it depends. Like, I've thought about this with Jaws before too. Like, the premise of this, depending on the tone in which you wrote it, you could pose it as like a Greek tragedy or as a schlocky summer blockbuster, or like there's whatever you decide to emphasize.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean we're 40 minutes in and we've barely even been on a boat yet. It's
the trivia here
multitudes.
It does.
The trivia here says it was a real smack. Oh man, yeah, he really got hit.
He did get hit.
The things you do for art.
That's right.
So much pathos, and you already know these actors are so good, and then he has to come home and he sees his little kid, and his little kid loves him unconditionally, and you can tell he's already had a few. Yeah, he's got a whiskey in front of him, and the cubes have already melted.
Yeah.
And the kid drinks his milk.
Oh, man.
Dad drinks his whiskey. And he hasn't touched his food, of course, which Hooper notices. What does he say?
It's meat, right?
What does he say? This is a very Spielbergian moment here. What does he say, or Hooper say, when I'd like to talk to your husband? And she says, so would I. It's just fantastic.
In the book, it's a little less wholesome because in the book, Hooper and Mrs. Brody have an affair.
Indeed, they do.
So it's there's a little more kind of tension in that relationship, which it sort of makes sense that they cut it out for the movie, because the movie is more of like it has its sort of grisly moments, but it is way more of like a adventure movie, and it would be weird to have this kind of like De Palma style kind of like steamy sordidness in like what is basically like an adventure flick.
Yeah.
There's no room in the film for it. And of course, in the book, Hooper gets got in the book because he deserves it, because he's a philanderer or an adulterer. And I didn't know what you're having, so about red and white. these little signs of class. And of course, when Brody pours the red wine directly into his killed whiskey, and there's plenty of whiskey left at the bottom of that. There's a good inch of watered down whiskey.
Still, yeah.
Oh, it's such a great little moment. Yeah. He goes for the red. Yeah, he's in yellow here too.
Yes. Their whole
Little-
kitchen's yellow. Like the
Mm.
dishes and everything are yellow in there.
Yeah, nothing in this film is accidental.
It's that classic sort of like 70s sunflower yellow, like yellow wallpaper, all that.
That's true.
Yeah.
My kitchen light was like that growing up. Not the wallpaper, but we had a yellow refrigerator. You know, the
Yeah.
70s yellow refrigerator.
It was all like sunflower yellow and like burnt orange.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good look.
We have some laminate
Bringing that back.
flooring. Yeah, laminate flooring in our kitchen that it must be from the 70s. That is quite yellowish.
Yeah,
Staying classy. I'm not pulling it up. I don't want hardwood in my kitchen. The rest of the house can be hardwood, but
yeah.
Oh man. This is a good little speech for Hooper. He talks about having his inboard turned into an outboard.
Well, and it's interesting because like Hooper kind of comes across as like, he's the effete city slicker scientist trust fund kid, but he has the kind of grit of like a seafaring adventurer to him too. Like he's like has no problem going up front with like these sharks and like seeing them like tear his boat apart. And then of course later on, like when there's that bonding moment between he and Quint. And so like, it just goes to show that like all of these characters have oceanic depths to them that like you don't catch in like the first viewing.
Yeah,
He-
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he talks to Quint. He says he manned or whatever did. I can't remember how many, but it comes later. But XYZ transpacts. We're saying like he's sailed across the Pacific. He is a man of the
Yeah.
sea. Like
Yeah.
yeah. Brad, what were you going to say?
Well, he's going to say he certainly has more physical courage than Brody does, especially around the water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Until the very end.
yeah.
When Brody is forced to confront, my husband hates the water. He's afraid of the water. What's it called? Drowning.
There's a clinical term for it, isn't it? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, there's a clinical term
So
for it. Drowning.
That's got to be a Gottliebism.
Yep. Carl Gottlieb. Yeah, I can't wait to read that chapter on the After Dark. It's so funny. Now this is what tells me, and he plays an excellent drunk, having some experience in the field. He's a practiced drunk. He's going to be able to function through this. He's not so far gone that he can't get out and do it. But it is really hilarious to think that what remains here as they end up going out on the water to find, I can't remember the character's name, but to find Ben Gardner's boat.
That can do anything.
He's drunk the whole time here.
Yeah.
It's sort of amusing.
Hey, when you cut open a shark, you got to get a little.
Yeah, it's good to have one.
I'm not cutting open a shark sober.
I like that he's still wearing his tie. What's up with that? With this all denim.
It's like, it looks like
tie
it's
look.
like a crocheted tie. I think it's a scarf, Brad.
Oh, maybe it might be.
Yeah, and then a little bit of humor here too, where he ate a Louisiana license plate.
Yeah, and the license plate has 007 on it, and like because like I think the most recent James Bond movie had been Live and Let Die at this point, which was set extensively in Louisiana. And I know Spielberg was like desperate. He always wanted to make a Bond flick, but like at the time they were very sort of British chauvinist and only hiring non-American filmmakers until actually the most recent movie they had, Cary Fukunaga, who's an American.
Yeah.
And so like that license plate with the 007 Louisiana is like his sort of like trying to get like the attention of Cubby Broccoli at all.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And then, just sort of going onto my usual kind of underworld of popcorn tear about it. It's like there's like so many like extrapolations you can draw from of what exactly is a license plate doing in the water in Louisiana? And like you start thinking about it, it's like it was like disposed as like part of like a crime scene. You know, you think New Orleans mafia like throwing away some license plate, and then this shark, you know, swallowing it, and then winding up here in Amity. And it's like, you know, just the sense that like there's like a bigger subterranean or underwater world more than just this like resort island.
Yeah, no, I love that. And the shark is like
The shark is like
moves
the
between it.
conduit of the
Yeah,
underworld.
I like it. I like it.
We're about to
That's
approach some shots that are distinctly Spielbergian, with the light coming through the glass in Gartner's boat. This does feel like his own contribution to the language of cinema, just in terms of these little moments. There could be precedent for it, but I don't know of it. And of course, Jurassic Park is Jaws on land.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
I mean, there's and there's even hints of this whole like science, or the gee whiz science around the sharks. It has a real place in this film.
But there's always something in the Spielberg thing where like there is a certain respect for science, but like when it comes right down to it, like you have to. When it comes right down to it, science doesn't solve the problem.
Of course,
right?
Of course. A man has to do what a man does.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's what we all want to see, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, Brody's starting to sober up.
Right. I know he's waving that bottle of white wine around. Yeah.
Look at this. These are the shots that I'm talking about. There's a wonderful aura around these, and they're lit so perfectly. There's a barrel in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Again, foreshadowing what's to come. Yeah, this business especially right here just feels like
silhouette of that boat.
Yeah, and this sequence was supposed to have the Gottlieb character in it, and it was supposed to be during the day. I mean, and how much less effective would that have been? I seem to recall in one of the documentaries them talking about how they cut this so many times, or they cut, when they were testing the movie, they kept editing this until they got the jump scare.
Oh, really?
They wanted the jump scare here.
Well, and another thing I had read is that, like, I think, like, the underwater part when the head comes out was filmed in, like, Verna Fields, who is the editor, like, her, like, swimming pool. Or someone on production swimming pool. And, yeah.
Awesome. Well, they definitely went back to Hollywood and shot a number of shots on like a sound stage in the water. For sure. I don't know exactly which, but it wasn't all shot. Like this might have actually been on a soundstage.
I could see that.
Now that I think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the light. You're right about the lighting. It's evocative. Yeah, the lights under the water too.
Mm-hmm. It's almost reminiscent of like UFOs, like the lighting of the ship. It looks like a UFO that maybe Spielberg saw in the night sky in Arizona as a child.
Right. Oh, I bet he saw I bet he saw a UFO. That would explain so much.
Well, his earliest movie was called, like, his first feature-length movie was called, like, it's like Firelight or something like that. And it's like, there's only about like 7 minutes of it surviving today. And it was like made when he was like a senior in high school or something. And it was all of his friends. And it was about like, these high school kids in Arizona, like encountering UFOs. Wow. And like, watching a surviving footage on YouTube, it's a pretty impressive class. So good.
The eye is missing. And what is the implication there in terms of how he died? Is it that he drowned in the bottom of his own boat rather than
Good, like
drop into the water. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not clear how he expired per se.
Right.
Yeah, but he was definitely attacked by the shark. And the shark, and again, reinforcing this fact that shark will bite your boat.
Yeah.
That big bad shark will come at your boat.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's Vaughn in his anchors again. Sails away. Anchors away, Vaughn. I am not a man of the sea. Here, this is politics for you. There are lake people and river people, and there are ocean people. Everything else is noise.
Is that right? Which one are you, Kevin?
I'm a river person.
Oh, a river person.
Yeah.
I'm a lake person.
I'm a lake person. Yeah.
Yep, I'm a river person.
Makes sense.
Explains
a lot.
So now I'm the other. Now I'm the outsider here. Now
Yeah, that's right.
River rats versus lake snakes.
Yeah, that's right.
That feels right. It feels right. It's so interesting how much the mayor plays into the drama in the first two acts, and then Quint completely replaces Vaughn as the third man in the scene. Such a good actor. And of course, they open the beaches again, which is insane. Yeah. At this point, you're with these guys, but ironically, they're going to open the beaches because they have to,
right?
Because in pure American fashion, the almighty dollar is God.
Yeah, no, you can't interrupt. You can't interrupt the
commerce.
Yeah,
the shark of capital.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah. We're dealing with a perfect engine. All it does is swim, eat, and make baby sharks.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Swim, eat, and make little baby sharks. It really is extraordinary writing too. They weren't happy with the original drafts of the screenplay for a long time. Took a lot of doing for them to get the screenplay right, and quite a bit of it was improvised, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You're going to need a bigger boat was improvised.
Oh, interesting.
Which is a wonderful thing to think about. August.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's the 4th of July. That lighthouse in the background is fantastic too. What a great location.
Yeah.
No, not a chemtrail in the sky. I guarantee if you went out there now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It would just
be just gauzy. Just crisscross.
It'd be cotton candy sky.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here, people. Yeah. Well, here come all the peasants to be fed to the
tourists. Yeah, peasants. The feed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love how like they look like real people, and like you get a sense of it. It's like it almost has like a home movie vibe that like. You watch movies now and it's like they don't really have, that's not what, real America people look like, but you get a sense of like, this is like, an approximation, a pretty accurate one of what it looked like in the 70s.
Yeah.
Totally feels that way. The extras were pulled from the area, I'm sure, and said, we'll pay you this amount to work on the movie for 3 days. Yeah, that must have been a thing. There's going to be a little moment here where a kid is playing a little video game where you have a rifle and you shoot a shark in the video game. Another little subliminal setup. Yeah. Why anybody would choose to? Yeah, right here, the little video game.
Oh,
set me up, Killer Shark.
That'd be a cool arcade game to have.
Yeah,
as a true Jaws completists need that in their hounds.
Right.
Here comes the reporter who is Peter Benchley.
Oh, really?
This is his cameo in the film, the author of the book, which we'll talk about on the After Dark episode.
All right.
They're all chumming the water.
Oh gosh.
Trying to draw the shark away.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's Peter Benchley. He looks like a wide receiver.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
The robust
college. Gentleman. Yeah, he's got a real waspy vibe, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the helicopter's
he's in that
yellow.
Huh. Yeah, Benchley is kind of in that tradition of like a George Plimpton type who is like a kind of like wasp bookish kind of guy, but he knew how to like toss a pigskin.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it feels that way. Yeah, he might have played. He might have been like a backup quarterback at Cornell. That kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is nobody getting into the water? I don't know, Mayor Vaughn. Let's pause and talk about your hair for a minute.
Right.
Incredible hair.
Family offering themselves as ritual sacrifices.
Yes, to the beast of capital. That's right.
Yeah.
100%. And I mean, and they have
engine.
Oh, we're taking the kids too.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, and what is with these like old parents? Very old. Those could be their grandparents. Now that I think about that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But even Brody. I mean, even Brody and his wife look a little old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
No, it's like I feel like that's like a classic sort of trope now, where it's like you look at like what parents look like in the 70s and stuff, and it's like they're 40 years old, but to us now they look 70s just because everything is like, you've lived a rougher life back then, and now everything is sort of like Arrested Development in terms of like, we have like better, like, I guess, anti-aging things, at least for like the sort of the Hollywood.
Jacob, we are being pickled by xenoestrogens and microplastics.
It doesn't age. That doesn't age you though. That actually keeps you supple, I think.
We're preserved. Yeah,
it's got all kinds of other problems, but aging is not one of them.
You drop dead suddenly, but you look young.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Brought to you by Pfizer. Yeah, and he brings his own family to the beach.
Yeah.
He tells his son to go sail in the pond. The son doesn't want to. Then the little boy comes chasing after them. And of course the pond is where where Bruce the shark decides to attack.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh.
And the allusion to Alien that you made earlier is interesting, because what I always loved about Bruce the shark is the fact that it is kind of wonky, that it doesn't look like an actual fish. And it makes sense because the shark in this movie isn't a fish, it's a monster.
Right.
And that, like, I feel like now the problem with shark movies like that, like The Shallows or 47 Meters Down or whatever, is the CGI makes shark too like fluid and realistic, and it kind of like minimizes the horror quality. But like in Jaws, when you do finally glimpse the shark, it does look genuinely like monstrous and, something like completely out of our sort of understanding of how nature works.
Yeah, it's like this thing isn't reasonable. It's not it's not even thinking. It's just
it really is like a machine.
Right.
And I've always said the shark is the movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and that's obvious, but I really mean it. The shark is the movie. This movie ends when the shark is gone, very abruptly.
Yeah.
It gives you about maybe 60 seconds after the shark is gone, 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And they're done. They swim to shore.
Yeah.
And the movie itself, of course, is an engine. The movie is a machine for tension and for fear. It's pretty wonderful. Yeah, Brody's learned enough about sharks to know no whistles. It's going to freak the shark out.
Yeah.
It's going to track the shark to the shore. I mean, this is not going to work. people are, and then I love how there's just this horrible stampede, and people just swimming over children.
Right.
They don't care. There he goes. He can't handle it. Yep, he steals the child's little buoy toy. Total pandemonium. Again, Twitter.
Yeah.
This was all the blue checks running for the exit when Elon threatened to take over. Horror. Yeah, I mean, they trample a guy, have to drag him out. There's no law and order in the ocean.
Yeah.
And also just kind of the banal quality of like traveling to a place like this for the 4th of July to go soak in the ocean with a bunch of other plebs. Like just how kind of gauche it all is. And then these little monsters. Little known fact, this is the first appearance on film of the Coen brothers.
What?
It's a joke.
Oh. I got you earlier, so it's good.
That moment does feel like something the Coens would appreciate.
It does. Wow.
What a great distraction. And then, of course, here comes the shark, and you've got this hot young gal with the red bandana. Now she's screaming shark, and she can barely get it out. And now Brody's like, what now? Come on. But his own son is in the pond. Oof.
Yeah.
Following the release of the film, a sort of hysteria overtook some members of the public, resulting in numerous incidents across the country. In one, a beach in South California was cleared by lifeguards due to sharks in the water, which turned out to be dolphins. And in a sadder incident in Florida, an immature pygmy sperm whale, sperm whale that beached itself was beaten to death by bystanders who mistook it for a shark.
What? Oh my God.
Now, after this guy gets...
Well, then you had that like panic, and actually the namesake of the upcoming Apocalypse Confidential special, Summer of the Shark, that like that panic like in like summer of 2001, where like it seemed like there was like a shark attack like every other week, but it was like a total like media invention, just like sort of, panic and like trying to like whip up ratings and readership and stuff.
Yeah, it's like the numbers weren't going up. They just they just ran the stories, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like it was like a weird snapshot, like looking back, like you had that and you had like the whole Chandra Levy, Gary Condit stuff. And it was like these weird, like sort of media stories that became this huge, like sort of media storm, like right before 9/11. So exactly.
Well, you never know, what of those, when that happens, you don't know, is some studio releasing some big shark movie, and they also happen to own all of these other outlets, and they just plant these stories and signal boost these stories.
Why wouldn't they?
They're planting it into your mind. Yeah. Well, and now Brody looks out to the sea because he knows that's where his destiny lies.
Yeah, you can't fight it.
You can't fight it from the land.
Yeah.
I love the musical cue here. It really is like a face your destiny moment.
Yeah. And that passing through that proscenium of the pier or whatever, like kind of, it's
Odysseus going out to the sea.
Who's this hippie doctor? He can't even be a doctor. He's got to be like a...
He's an orderly.
Apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. They keep order.
He looked at the camera for a second, actually.
Ugh. It's impossible to find good actors. Anyway. During the scene at the hospital after the shark attack in the pond, as Michael and his bed are being wheeled out of the room and down the hall by a female nurse and a male doctor, the actor playing the male doctor looks directly into the camera.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
It just, that's the shot we got.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, Vaughn is done. He's wrecked.
Yeah, he's a wreck.
Yeah. You can't talk your way out of this one.
Mayor of Shark City.
What a great, great scene. We're going to hire Quinn to kill the shark. He's still trying to buy his way out of it too, Brody. Brody doesn't want to be responsible.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And who would? You don't want to have to. You don't want to have to go fight that thing. You don't want to have to be. This is not your territory.
No.
And now the town is wrecked for a good long period of time as well. They're not going to come back, as they say.
Yeah.
They're going to be on welfare for a minute.
Yeah.
All the tourists have left. It's a mess.
Yeah, I don't know though. Now, like, I feel like if there was a shark sighting, I think you'd get tourists who were motivated to see the shark.
Possibly.
Yeah.
It's a different class of person, though, from the plebs
True.
who like to soak in the water. Okay, and talk about how great this set is.
Yeah, all these sharks he's killed.
It looks like some kind of like backlot Disney ride set, like Tom Sawyer kind of thing. Like this whole, like not just this shack, but like this whole like inlet. Like when they're going out, it looks totally like, you know, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
Right.
like Peter's Dragon, kind of like that
Right.
era of like Disney backlot kind of filmmaking.
Oh yeah, no, you're totally right.
They're definitely on location, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it must be the way that it was shot.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Can't get a good man these days unless he's under 60.
So Brody dumped out that little bit of booze. Was that because the booze is bad, or is that because he's serious now?
That's a great point. Yeah, I don't think we know. I think we could decide one or the other.
Yeah.
But Brody may be done boozing for the minute. Yeah, he may have been sobered up by the fact that he's responsible for this town.
Yeah.
And that his son nearly was killed by this thing.
Right.
It's personal.
Mm-hmm.
This time it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
To borrow from the Jaws 4 tagline.
Oh man, maybe we should have screened Jaws 4. That film is so bad that it's good. It crosses that transom where you want to watch it.
They just get worse though, right? Like 2 is bad, but it's better than the
2
ones
is
that
okay.
follow it.
2 is watchable. 2 is like a slasher movie on the water. Yeah. And 3 is ridiculous. 3 has the hero dolphins who save the day. 3 was clearly underwritten by SeaWorld. Yeah. And then 4 it becomes completely unhinged. Just like a cocaine fever dream screenwriting. How do we get Ellen Brody and the kids? I mean, Brody's dead by the 4th one, and it's just like a throwaway line. And then they immediately kill, I think, Michael.
He's like the police, and it opens on Christmas. So, you know, like say it's my favorite Christmas movie. And I love the Michael Caine line where like he was interviewed about Jaws of Revenge, and he was like asked if he had seen it. He's like, I haven't seen it, but I've seen the house that it paid for, and it's magnificent.
Yes.
That's right.
It's such a goofy film. Worth watching just because it's so famously strange.
Yeah.
She has this weird psychic connection to the shark, and the shark follows her all the way down to the Caribbean.
That I do remember that. Yeah.
Not to rehash a tweet that I had made earlier, but I felt that like if they were gonna do a Jaws franchise, which they shouldn't have done, but if they were gonna do it, they should have followed the Hooper character and like him going around, because like they already tease it in this movie where they talk about like he's going on the Aurora for 18 months around, you know, the world, you know, going around the world oceans. Mm-hmm. So he should have been like, you know, a shark. He somehow manages to find himself in different shark situations, around the world, becoming like a sort of maritime Indiana Jones. It's a no-brainer.
Oh no,
As
that
soon
would have
as
been great. Yeah.
as soon as someone creates a time machine, the first thing I'm going to do is go back in time and do that Jaws Hooper franchise.
Oh, it would have been great. And you could have made each one kind of progressively a little bit crazier, right? He's in
Yeah,
South
exactly.
Africa for the next one. And, at some point he comes across a shark, like a shark cult. You could have made it
Yeah.
kind of weird, but it wouldn't
Like
have had
Day
to
of
have
the
been.
Dolphin style
Yeah,
shark telepathic, like Cold War Soviet shark stuff. Yeah. It writes itself.
exactly.
Still trying to figure out your aesthetic, Jacob.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
I love it.
I saw a little bit of trivia here that apparently the orca was originally called the Warlock.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Oh,
like
but see,
the orca better.
there was a what was that movie where they're oh no, that's Sorcerer. I'm thinking of that movie is it
That's a great
Sorcerer?
movie.
It is a great movie. I know the truck is called Sorcerer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I mean, and we've got about 50 minutes left of this film, and you kind of know you're not going to see her again. You can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wear your rubbers.
Well, now we're in the realm of men, right? We're going
Yes.
to see,
Oh, yes.
it's all men. Yeah.
General trivia, Robert Shaw also ran into trouble with the IRS and had to flee the country once his scenes were completed. If he spent more than a certain amount of time in the U.S., he would face a tax liability. To circumvent that, Shaw was flown to Canada on his days off.
Nice.
So the shooting went so long that they had to schlep him to Leafland so he could avoid the IRS.
Wow.
Can't we do something for working artists? Can't we cut
seriously.
anybody a break? Why does it have to be? No, of course not.
No. If you come on our territory and you read a few lines, you got to pay. You got to pay up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense for all the value that the government brings. Yeah, interesting. The entire second half of Jaws takes place on the ocean with just Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss carrying it between the three of them. No other characters appear, bar the shark, and dry land is glimpsed near the end of the movie. The reason was Spielberg didn't want land to be seen because he thought the audience would think that the characters could just run back to shore. He wanted to isolate the audience as much as the characters. Yeah, you can feel that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that was another change they made from the book that's so much better, is because in the book, like they go, like at the end of each day, they go back on land and then go back in the water and then go back on land, which that would have totally slowed down the action and like lowered the stakes. Yeah. So the fact that they're isolated out there.
No, that's the way to do it.
Better.
Yeah.
This is a play at this point.
Even though really practically, like this thing has been attacking people basically at the beach. So I don't know that you really even but I don't want to get in the way of a good story. Did either of you guys see there was another in the 90s probably. There was a miniseries from another Peter Benchley book called, I think it was called The Beast.
Yeah, the squid one.
Yeah, it was
William
like
Peterson.
I
love that one.
Yeah. Giant. It's basically Jaws, except it's a giant squid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You just hear the publisher
and there was like
begging him to write another one.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jacob.
Well, then there was like another one. It was like The Island or The Deep or something like that, where it was like something that involved Nazi experimentation with sharks. And I just remember catching it on like the Sci-Fi Channel back when it was sci-fi, not this sci-fi like yeah. And like it like ends with like a shark growing legs and arms and stuff like that. Horrible, but amazing.
Okay. I'm into it.
All of these other examples that we're giving just highlight what a remarkable accomplishment this film is, and how it stands head and shoulders above most everything else.
Other than Sharknado,
it's multiple movies too. It's got so much has already happened. It feels like we've already had an entire movie. And now we get to have this action adventure on the sea. The setup is just so incredible, and now you're so ready to watch whatever is going to happen here. And of course, now we've got Brody. Brody's on the water.
Right.
Why does he go? Why does Brody go?
I think he realizes, like we kind of said, that this is like
it's his call to heroism.
Yeah, some sense of responsibility, and the widow slapped him, and he wants to redeem himself, and
yeah.
I like how he's methodically strapping everything in. He's not telling the boys what's up. He's just getting ready.
Oh man, and Shaw is so great
because he's gonna reel it in like you reel in a bass, you know.
Sure.
Oh,
get behind me. This also, I mean, this is evocative, of course, of all the great American, well, not all, but a big segment of great American literature. This is Moby Dick, of course, and it's also The Old Man and the Sea. It's also Hemingway.
Yeah.
So it's hitting all of those notes for us, but in a really cinematic way. It's pure cinema. There really isn't anything literary about this on the surface.
No,
and that's excellent. And apparently, that when they were working on the screenplay, Spielberg was really emphasizing that because Benchley was coming back with kind of a literary screenplay, and he was leaning into learning. He wanted to learn because he wanted to write screenplays directly, and I think he must have after this. But he came first as a novelist, and a novelist who's untrained as a screenwriter is going to think a certain way. I don't know, Chief, whether he's very smart or very dumb.
Yeah, people say that about me, actually.
Yeah. You could say that about this movie,
right?
Either this movie is, I mean, and is this movie the ultimate midwit film? It may be.
I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there isn't.
I think you can take from, and I think our conversation is evidence of this. You can take from this film what you want. There's a lot you can pull from this.
Well, I think one of the things is like the when you're watching a film or thinking about films, there's multiple genres. So yeah, this isn't an art house film, and that's fine. But like, taken for what it is, if you want to use the term midwit, but like Hollywood action adventure blockbuster, this is as good as they get, pretty much. As a medium in of its own.
There was nothing like this prior. Not really.
Right.
Yeah. It's created a new level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. And for people who appreciate cinema and who really understand what's going on with the camera right now, and you're thinking, how did they get this shot on that boat? How did they get that shot on that boat? How did they do this? There's so much meat for you. No pun intended.
A lot of chum in the water for you.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a lot of chum in this movie.
Oh, it's Shaw just chews up scenery, right? Like,
he's swinging cats the entire time.
Yeah, I just forgot we were doing a podcast for a second there, just watching.
I was like, just watching the movie.
Yeah.
And from what I remember reading, like Dreyfuss and Shaw like hated each other, and that there was like sort of real rivalry on set between the two. I mean, I feel like there was probably some kind of animosity between everyone just because the shoot was such a bitch to do.
Yeah. Well, it's good. They made use of it, They're both. Dreyfuss is certainly a professional, so.
I love that when he does I don't have to take this abuse much longer because to a millennial like me, I'm like, what the hell? He's just doing some goofy Looney Tunes voice. But then I read that it was that's like a W.C. Fields reference.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's like to someone in the maybe an older viewer in like 1975, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's like that's like the equivalent of like doing like a Christopher Walken impression like in a movie now, but
Right.
like cultural references and touchstones become lost over time, and it's like it became its like own kind of thing.
Right.
Probably another Gottliebism chucked
Oh, yeah.
into the script. Yeah, or again, who knows? He might have improvised. How long did it take to shoot Jaws? Although principal photography was scheduled to take 55 days, it did not wrap until October 6th, 1974, after 159 days. Spielberg, reflecting on the protracted shoot, stated, "I thought my career as a filmmaker was over." Oof. Here we go.
Oh, I
Here
love
comes
this.
Bruce.
Not paying attention, throwing the chum. Yeah.
Boom.
Like the way he
Uh,
jerks back. It's,
Yes. It's so great.
there is this thing where everybody who first sees the shark, it's like you can't call attention to it for some reason. Like you see it and you kind of freeze and you slowly react, but you don't just. That's the line.
You're going to need a bigger boat. It's often misquoted as "we're going to need a bigger boat." It is not "we're going to need a bigger boat." It is "you're going to need a bigger boat."
Yeah.
And that's essential because that's
Brody's
Brody's character is still
He's not the
he's
shark.
still
hunter.
not taking responsibility for it. And here we go. Now the shark is here. And now it is on. And even Shaw is blown away by the size of the shark.
Mhm.
25 feet long, 5 feet wide. They don't make sharks that big. And the score.
And just how he says it so quietly, like he's like he finally sort of respects the shark for the dragon that it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to read a little bit here from the wiki. Footage of the real shark that we're going to see here soon. The real sharks was shot by Ron and Valerie Taylor in the waters off Dangerous Reef in South Australia, with a short actor in a miniature shark cage to create the illusion that the sharks were enormous. During the Taylor's shoot, a great white attacked the boat and cage. The footage of the cage attack was so stunning that Spielberg was eager to incorporate it into the film. No one had been in the cage at the time, and the script following the novel originally had the shark killing Hooper in it. The storyline was consequently altered to have Hooper escape from the cage, which allowed the footage to be used. As production executive Bill Gilmore put it, the shark down in Australia rewrote the script and saved Dreyfuss's character.
Oh, interesting.
I did not know that, and I prefer that. It's nice that Hooper doesn't die and he survives and he comes back and they swim to shore together. It feels better that way somehow. Oh,
Yeah. Well, and it's cool how it's like, we think of, and maybe nowadays they definitely are, with all the pre-viz, everything is like a well-oiled machine, a perfect machine. All it does is, exploit IP, reap box office, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
But like with movies back then, you think of them as these huge productions, but like so much of what we take for granted, like we see this now and be like, of course Hooper has to live. You have to have that kind of Casablanca style ending.
Right.
But like the fact that it was like this sort of happy accident or circumstance just makes it like that art like this just is about improvisation, which seems to be a big theme of our talk tonight, is how so much of this is just sort of like rolling with the punches.
And those limitations force an interesting kind of streak of creativity. You've got to do you got to do what you can with what you've got. I mean, this, I don't know how they would film this now, but back then it was Spielberg had a crew of 8 people or something out there probably helping him shoot this and do sound. And then it's the actors and that's it. And then it's like we go out there and we get whatever we can get every day. and hopefully some of it's good.
I'm going to read.
Now this water scene would be shot on like a green screen stage and
Yep.
air conditioned in Burbank or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
for sure. Yeah, and you can
Burbank,
tell.
more like Hong Kong or like Beijing or something. Vancouver. One of the most, okay, so I'm going to read about the origin of "You're going to need a bigger boat." One of the most quotable lines in movie history. It happened by accident. Writer Carl Gottlieb, who we're going to read on the After Dark, recently talked with The Hollywood Reporter and revealed how the line came to be. This is from cinemaplan.com. Filmed largely on the water, the equipment for Jaws was all housed on a barge nicknamed the USS Garage Sale, which, thanks to stingy producers, only had a single support boat to keep it steady, a task the small craft was not up to. The fact that they needed a bigger boat became an in-joke on the set. Per Gottlieb, Zanuck and Brown were very stingy producers, so everyone kept telling them, "You're going to need a bigger boat." It became a catchphrase for any time anything went wrong. If lunch was late or the swells were rocking the camera, someone would say, "You're going to need a bigger boat." So there you go.
That's pretty great. Yeah. Again, the same thing, right? This limitation that's kind of imposed on the thing, and
this shooting star, did we already see the shooting star? I may have missed it.
I might have missed it too.
There will be a shooting star, or there might have just been. That was a real shooting star that they caught in the shot.
Wow.
Which they kind of took to mean there was a good omen. And of course, this is one of the greatest speeches in cinema history. I'm actually going to go over and hang out with a buddy of mine tonight. We're going to watch The Third Man, which has another great speech, the cuckoo clock speech. But it really doesn't get any better than this. And I mean, this entire scene, it's like a little play that happens down here. And, the singing and all the rest of it. The speech itself was dictated over the phone by John Milius to Spielberg, because Spielberg he knew he needed something here. And apparently the dictation was something like 10 pages. And they worked with Shaw to winnow it down to what would become one of the all-time great speeches in cinema. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
There's that allusion to World War II. Direct, not even an allusion, a direct reference to World War II at the heart of the movie.
Yeah.
Very curious. And then comparing the scars, and then there's this little moment where Brody looks at his appendix.
Yeah.
Right.
He looks at his little appendix scar. Which is great. And he's supposed to be the hard man too. He's a cop. He's a police officer. He's no slouch, but you can't compare to these guys. You get the impression that Brody's had a drink. What do you think? I don't know that he has.
I don't think
Maybe
so.
He's had a few. Yeah, he checks his appendix. He's like, what am I going to tell these guys?
I love that you're wearing a sweater.
Yeah.
Mary Ellen Moffat, she broke my heart. And these two respect each other, as men of the sea.
Yeah.
I don't know how they can relax, frankly. And then he asks him about the Indianapolis, the tattoo that he had removed.
Well, and it's interesting how it's like it's not a scar that he got from the Indianapolis. It is the thing, the memento of the Indianapolis is like something that was supposed to be like a commemoration of it, and he's like trying to get rid of the memory of it, as opposed to like a shark bite from surviving the ordeal.
Yeah, that's a good point. That adds a layer of complexity for sure.
So I've got some information. I've got a quote from Spielberg about the speech. This is from scriptmag.com. I owe 3 people a lot for this speech. You've heard all this, but you've probably never heard it from me. There's a lot of apocryphal reporting about who did what on Jaws, and I've heard it for the last 3 decades. But the fact is, the speech was conceived by Howard Sackler, who is an uncredited writer, didn't want a credit, and didn't arbitrate for one. but he's the guy that broke the back of the script before we ever got to Martha's Vineyard to shoot the movie. I hired later Carl Gottlieb to come onto the island, who was a friend of mine, to punch up the script. But Howard conceived of the Indianapolis speech. I had never heard of the Indianapolis before Howard, who wrote the script at the Bel Air Hotel, and I was with him a couple of times a week reading pages and discussing them. Howard one day said, Quint needs some motivation to show all of us what made him the way he is, and I think it's the Indianapolis incident. I said, Howard, what's that? And he explained the whole incident of the Indianapolis and the atomic bomb being delivered on its way back. It was sunk by a submarine, and sharks surrounded the helpless sailors who had been cast adrift, and it was just a horrendous piece of World War II history. Howard didn't write a long speech. He probably wrote about 3/4 of a page. But then when I showed the script to my friend John Milius, John said, can I take a crack at this speech? And John wrote a 10-page monologue that was absolutely brilliant, but outsized for the jaws I was making. But it was brilliant. And then Robert Shaw took the speech, and Robert did the cut down. Robert himself was a fine writer who had written the play The Man in the Glass Booth. Robert took a crack at the speech, and he brought it down to 5 pages. So that was sort of the evolution just of that speech. Talk about how art is made, man.
Yeah.
That's how it's done. Yeah, here we go. And then the
incredible acting, because you can see like the anguish and like pain in his eyes.
You say it's not an art film, Brad, but this is business under the boat here. This entire sequence is like a little play inside of the movie. Even the way that Brody is shot, where it's just his face, he looks like
he's off to the side.
Looks like a Godard movie. All of a sudden, he's in this like black turtleneck, and yeah. I wonder how many times they shot it to get this take. Ugh. What a wonderful moment. I love it.
And
Brody's definitely in his sort of New York sort of theater, sort of all that jazz, Bob Fosse style kind of.
Yeah.
You boys keep it going. I'm gonna hit the head real quick before Bruce comes back.
Yeah. No, there's something too about the way that Shaw is kind of like, he's definitely controlling this speech. He's got these moments where he's like almost smiling.
Yeah. It's kind of like
menacing.
It's like the way you smile to sort of hide, smile instead of crying. Because like you can tell like the way his eyes and the way he says, anyway, we delivered the bomb. It's like him like being like, it's like when something horrible happens to you and you just go, it is what it is. Kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. It's like, oh, it all kind of worked out. Yeah. It's pretty...
And sort of when Kevin was talking about how like, Spielberg didn't know about the Indianapolis incident. And I can imagine that like in 1975, I'm sure like if you were like nut about that stuff, you would know about it. But I'm sure to general audiences, like this was their first exposure to this incident.
Probably.
And so it like sort of underlines the whole kind of like secret history element that I'm obsessed with.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. Right.
Well, not to be too cynical about it, but you want to talk about, and I think he plays this evil karma of having delivered this weapon of mass destruction only to be destroyed on the way back, and then to have nature itself murder you, kill you in the most horrific way. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
Yeah, you don't get away from that karma, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And this, who doesn't love this? I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I had a little drink about an hour ago. Come on. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's great. It's great.
Yeah, that scene is, it's one of the finest scenes in cinema.
Mm-hmm. Now it's happening.
I don't think Brody's had a drink.
I don't think he's drinking anymore. I think he stopped.
Yeah. So who needs meetings when you have a shark?
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
There's going to be a moment that comes up here where
Uh-oh.
Quint smashes the radio, and it's always been a bit of a cipher to me. Like, I believe it. I understand they need to do it
Mhm.
for the film to work, because otherwise they could just do a mayday
Yeah.
and the Coast Guard could come and find them. Oh, and then when the lights go out, and then you have he ate the
Well,
light. Terrific.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, it might relate to that kind of karma thing that you're talking about, Kevin, where it's like Quint's like, no, this actually is this is my destiny coming at me, and so I have to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that would be my answer for sure.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
the one moment in the movie where it's totally earned, and I totally get it. But if you wanted to pick the third act of this movie apart, here comes the shooting star, by the way. And this really happened. I mean, it's not like built
oh
in
wow,
later.
yeah, oh, I saw it.
How amazing is that?
Yeah,
What are the odds? This movie was
that's
touched,
wild.
man, perfectly across the frame.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. There was, oh man, yeah, I thought I saw something in the clouds on right there too, but maybe not.
Yeah, well, I think they had shooting stars during some of the filming.
Yeah. So I survived the night, just barely. All right, so these two boys again bonding, right? They both know how to fix a ship.
The movie is so propulsive. It does not let up. There is no fat on this film. And of course, you can thank the Oscar winning editor. What was her name again, Jacob?
It's either Verna Fields or Vera Fields.
Okay.
Let's look it up and get it right, because this movie is not does not exist without her.
Oh, for sure. No, this is
Verna Fields.
Verna Fields. Shouts out.
Yeah, this had to be. I mean, and what a job too. And she was born in 1918 in St. Louis, Missouri.
Wow.
She must have been working with these kids. She died in 1982. She didn't live much longer. Yeah.
This buoy, I'm just thinking as it from a writing standpoint, the use of that
is Bruce. Here he comes. Yeah, the use of the buoy.
The barrel, it's brilliant. It makes it, indirect signs of the thing. It's great.
Yeah, there's a lot to be learned from that.
You could probably get into all kinds of, pretentious theory cell, the semiotics of how the shark is only signified by like the objects that like sort of impinge on it, and then it impinges on, the world and stuff. Like it doesn't exist as its own thing, at least until the ending when you finally see it.
Yeah. No, there is something interesting there, for sure.
Well, he smashed the radio. You're certifiable, Quint. You know that? You're certifiable. I believe Quint would do this. I do.
Yeah.
It's just a moment of, I suppose, impulsiveness, but also he doesn't. He's probably too proud. He doesn't call for help. He doesn't call. He doesn't call Mayday.
Right.
Yeah. That speech becomes absolutely critical to his character.
Yes.
So they're going to keep putting barrels on the shark. I'm going to read some from this. There's a Den of Geek article about kind of the nightmare of the shoot. All right, there's a shark in the water. A man bellows through a megaphone, a hint of melancholy in his voice. He's been killing people. Legs have been bitten off, and there's blood all over the place. It's June 1974, and the water's freezing. Dozens of extras clad in trunks and bathing costumes are bobbing about just off the beach of Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, trying not to shiver. It may be summer, but the locals know that the water doesn't warm up until late in the season. The man holding the megaphone is a member of the production team putting together Jaws. For the then 26-year-old Steven Spielberg, Jaws is a decisive moment in his career, with the movie already starting to run over its originally planned $3.5 million budget. He knows that if the movie sinks, so does his future as a filmmaker. Jaws defined the high-concept Hollywood picture. It was the prototypical summer blockbuster, providing a hit during a season in which Hollywood traditionally released its weaker pictures. It prompted a generation of moviegoers to stare out at the sea with fear and distrust. But before all that, Spielberg had to get the wretched film in the can, all in the face of cantankerous, feuding actors, malfunctioning props, sinking boats, and frantic script rewrites. But this is the point. I mean, and this last little pit here. Incredibly, it was the movie's troubled production that would make it a classic. So it's just such an important thing to remember. Let me see if I can find something else here from this about maybe the actors. It's so exciting. They're putting the barrels in the shark. Here comes Brody, and Brody tries to like shoot the shark like it's
right.
like it's like that's gonna do anything. He's got like. What do you think that is? I mean,
I guess
it can't hurt.
Yeah.
Well,
But again, from a writing
with that moment, Brody's kind of been touched by the madness of Quint, because earlier Quint tries to shoot the shark with his rifle, and it's like seen as like an obviously insane gesture. And then Brody, the allegedly sort of level-headed one, like he then he's sort of caught in the mania of catching this fucking fish, and he pulls out his, like service revolver and tries to knock it down.
Right.
They've all been quintified.
They have.
But then that is reversed, of course, at the very end, because it is finally a shot that kills the shark.
Yeah, absolutely.
So listen to this. I remember being on set for the first shark test, and it simply sank. Producer David Brown said in the making of Jaws, "We thought our careers in motion pictures had gone with it. Everything that could go wrong with the shark went wrong. The shark was frustrating," Spielberg concurred, in what may be one of the greatest understatements in the history of filmmaking. The problem, it seemed, was that everybody involved in the production of Jaws knew they had the makings of a great movie. Unfortunately, they had no idea how to make a great shark. Joe Alves, the art director, and effects designer Bob Matty spent the best part of 6 months building 3 mechanical great whites, each destined to fulfill a specific function. One could be towed along for full frontal shots, while the other 2 were mounted on platforms and meant to be filmed from the left or right-hand side. That's wild.
Yeah.
This is really funny. Another little factoid. Spielberg named the shark Bruce, which was the name of his lawyer.
Classic. A shark in a suit.
All right, I got to. We got a taxidermy man. He's gonna have a heart attack when you see what I brung him. So listen to this. Before filming even began, Bruce tried to kill George Lucas. While visiting the Jaws effects shop one day, the future Star Wars director decided to place his head into the shark's maw, only to become trapped when Spielberg and John Milius mischievously pressed a button and closed the jaws on him. Now jammed shut, the beast's mouth had to be prized back open to get Lucas's head back out.
Oh my God.
We nearly didn't get Star Wars.
Right. Wow.
But yeah, I mean, and then of course, because Bruce was such a mess, Spielberg had to improvise, and that's why we get the movie that we have.
Ooh.
And it is a case of less is more, and
certainly
not seeing the monster as so much until the very end just makes such a huge difference. I mean, this is some real filmmaking too. My God. Yeah. There's some real risk here too. Whatever they're doing, This is not for the faint of heart.
No. Well, and the suspense building is great here. It's just little things keep going wrong, they kind of snowball.
All right, so Robert Shaw didn't like Richard Dreyfuss. So, as if working on a film with an unfinished script and an unreliable shark wasn't enough, Spielberg also had his actors to contend with. Reflecting their characters' on-screen enmity, Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss were frequently at loggerheads. Roy Scheider once described a typical barbed comment from Shaw, who appeared to be irked by his younger co-star. Shaw would say, "Look at you, Dreyfuss. You eat and you drink and you're fat and you're sloppy. At your age, it's criminal. Why, you couldn't even do 10 push-ups." And then Dreyfuss about this said, Shaw was a perfect gentleman whenever he was sober. All he needed was one drink, and then he turned into a competitive son of a bitch. And Spielberg said Robert would basically humiliate Richard into taking a chance. For instance, Robert would say, "I'll give you $100 if you climb up to the top of the mast on the Orca and jump it off into the water."
Wow.
But yeah, Spielberg he's saying it got ugly, but it ended up helping the film.
Well, Spielberg at 26 years old probably could use a sort of domineering influence out there to kind of keep the troops in line a little bit, and sort of indirectly.
Probably not incorrect.
Yeah, just like if he's on your side.
It's a bad cop to the good cop.
Right. Yeah.
The shoot reached its depressing nadir when, while filming a final act scene where the shark is harpooned with barrels to slow it down, the Orca's hull was accidentally ruptured. With the Orca rapidly sinking, Spielberg called out, "Get the actors off the boat." Disgruntled sound engineer John Carter yelled back, "Fuck the actors, save the sound department." So this was not easy.
Yeah.
See, I feel like they have that show, what is it, The Offer, that's about like the making of The Godfather. They should do, and I know they've done documentaries about the making of Jaws, but they should do like a dramatic series about the making of Jaws.
That could be very cool. Yeah. That could be very cool. I definitely want to like more of Shaw, even as if he's just a character, even if it's not really him. He's compelling.
I love when he says, "Don't put too much pressure on it," but then he puts more pressure on it. Classic.
When the shoot wrapped, Spielberg didn't stick around for the wrap party because he was worried they would chuck him into the ocean.
Yeah.
He said, his final words were, "I shall not return." 159 days. That's half a year of your life.
Yeah.
Out there.
Yeah.
When it should have been a third of that.
Right.
You have other stuff going on.
Right.
You're supposed to be in this play, or you're supposed to do this other movie. And yeah, I mean, and when you can feel it coming over in the acting, I think.
Yeah, they're getting punchy, right? Like,
yeah, it works. Oh man, he pushes the boat too hard. Oh, it all happens so fast. The wheels come off so fast for the Orca. There's that great moment where he hands the boys life jackets here coming up, but he doesn't wear one because he'll never wear one again.
3 barrels.
Oh, there's a continuity error where the cleats that the shark pulls off the boat reappear.
Oh, they're back on them.
There's quite a few continuity errors, which doesn't surprise me given the nature of what happened.
Oh, it's so chaotic. I mean,
well, and I think the amount of footage that she had to work through. Yeah. I wonder if they noticed them and just said, "We got to work with it. What are we going to do? Airbrush them out?" I mean, forget about it.
Yeah.
See, here's where he knows he's kind of been beaten in a funny way.
Yeah, the boat's handicapped now,
Yeah.
or disabled entirely, really.
No, it's almost like his own madness is coming back to him. Like is he just waking up to reality? Like, oof. He thought he could beat the shark, but the shark seems to have destroyed his boat.
Yeah, he's got his jacket and his hat on, like he's gonna go somewhere now.
Now he has to finally concede that Hooper's equipment might be able to do something. It's their last chance. And then this is where all the footage from the Australian second unit comes into play, where you do briefly see real sharks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they had a tank that was, or a cage that was half the size of the one on the set, and then a cage that was 3/5 of the size. And they hired a really tiny stuntman to go into the cage to get the footage. And then that's what I described earlier, where the shark actually tore the cage to pieces, but nobody was in it. And so that's apparently the reason Hooper survives at the end.
I love that detail. That's great. That syringe. It's an enormous syringe.
There's a moment here too of just like pure human, like at this point now they're trying to survive as much as kill the shark.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's stopped being about killing the shark to save the town. It's like it's their own skins here.
Yeah.
The boat is sinking.
Yep.
I mean, and I love the soundtrack. This is not commented on enough because the Sharks theme is so dominant, but just the use of like kind of sea shanties and just this vibe of like, and you don't even know, like, how do you know they're sea shanties? It just sounds like it. It sounds kind of vaguely like music a pirate would listen to. And you just know it because you know it, I guess because of, years of cultural conditioning. But I mean,
John Williams is a master. He's about to retire, supposedly. Whatever the next movie is supposed to be the last John Williams score.
There's probably not been a greater career in Hollywood, full stop, for anything.
I mean, yeah, he just did it. Every year it seems like every year there's a movie or two with the John Williams score.
Trying to imagine this without the score, or Star Wars without the score, it's impossible. It's like the soundtrack of life in a lot of ways. I ain't got no spit. And it gets lowered down. Yeah, the stuntman nearly died because he got startled at one point by a shark in Australia. And so now we're in this is some of the Australia footage, I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And so they have a smaller cage
and a little guy.
And a little guy. Yeah. And some of it's going to be Dreyfus, but some of it's going to be the little guy.
Yeah.
And oh my God, what a nightmare! The shark's coming at him, and he's in this cage. Yeah, but the little guy down in Australia, nearly died because he forgot how to clear his whatever the breathing apparatus is.
Oh boy!
And they had to pull him up.
Jeez.
And so that's a real shark there, of course, right? That's not Bruce.
No,
this is real footage. I think it cost them, I can't remember, but it was some hundreds of thousands of dollars to do the second unit footage just for these few shots. But it's kind of hard to imagine the film without them.
No, you need them. It's the monster's revealed now. We're in the final ordeal,
Well, and there's just enough reality from that footage to help you kind of suspend your disbelief slightly. Of course, by the time, that was definitely Bruce.
Yeah.
That's a real shark.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell.
Yeah, the way it swims, that's a real shark.
Yeah. But it's enough. And it's edited so well. And he told these two, the shots that he wanted. and they did the best that they could down there to get them. Feel bad for that stuntman.
Oh man.
the story goes that, they asked him, do you know how to dive? And he said yes, the way that an actor would in Hollywood.
Right.
Like, yeah, of course. Yeah. And then because you figure you can learn, just get the job and then worry about it later.
Right. But this isn't like, can you drive stick? This is
So a few weeks later, he's quite literally in a tiny shark cage built for him, swimming with great white sharks. How great talk about how great Bruce is here, though. The shark.
Yeah.
Like the mechanical shark.
Really like a monster, yeah.
It's just pure horror.
Yeah.
And then Hooper swims down and hides. And then this really happened. That's real footage, of course, of a shark actually tearing apart the cage in Australia.
That's wild.
And there was nobody in the cage, so they had to. You want to talk about? This editing job there. That passage. That's staggering. Look at that. Again, just these weird happy accidents to create whatever Jaws ends up being.
Yeah, and all these little details about the boat falling apart. Yeah. Ugh, that thing is terrifying.
I don't. This film terrified me so much as a child that I was afraid of the pool.
Yeah, me too.
Oh yeah.
Which of course is totally irrational.
Oh yeah.
But
I always thought like when I was little that the flapper that pools have that sort of clean the thing. Like I always was afraid that a shark would swim out of those.
Right.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Shark seems to swim out of everything.
I really can't overstate the hold this film had on my imagination as a child. Oh man, Quint's not going to make it.
No.
And this scene is so brutal. Like
It
all
really
like
is.
the blood just coming out of his mouth. Ugh,
Gruesome.
gnarly death.
And then, of course, the horror that this is a man who survived the Indianapolis business only to go this way.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's fighting to the last, though. He's got that machete.
He's gone though, and he knows
That's it.
And now it's
And all that blood still on the water on the deck.
Right. Oh.
With the can of Narragansett.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love this movie.
Like doll eyes. Yep. Shove that in there.
Yeah, shark teeth have shreds of Quint on them.
Yeah,
right.
Yep,
They do.
Yep. Oh man, gourmand. And what is he left with? And I'm gonna get ahead of that final line. Smile, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a perfect line because it's Brody played that game all along the first act into the second act where, he's when they capture the tiger shark or they kill the tiger shark, he poses, right, and smiles for the camera.
Yep.
And he just goes along with what the mayor says.
Mm-hmm.
And he just smile and just do what you know what I mean? And
that's a good
just
point.
go along with it.
Yeah.
And it's like he's totally doubled with the shark. And I don't know. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's it's also, what do? It's you smile for the camera, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so there's like a film metaphor in it. And even if it's unintentional, I think it's great. God. And listen, people talk shit about the shark, it doesn't look real, blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
oh, I don't care.
Bro, I'm totally bought in at this point. I
Yeah,
believe that
exactly.
this thing is a killing machine that wants to kill Brody, who I really like now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like not even a shark. It's like, again, it's like a monster. It's like a biblical leviathan.
Yeah.
More than
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a realistic
a
animal.
fish.
Yeah.
One of the greatest endings in movies.
Oh,
And
as this thing's
look,
sinking.
and look, do you think he makes this shot if he isn't sober? No,
No, that's true.
he's sobered up.
Yeah.
I almost can't stand it.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. You don't even hear the word. Smile, you son of a.
Yeah.
Yep. And the shark's dead.
Yep. Got him.
Whew. My heart is racing. I've seen this movie 50 times. And
That's
my heart
actually
is like still
kind of
racing.
a gorily, beautiful shot, though. The Jaws carcass sinking, and hemorrhaging.
Yeah, and the music is like this twinkly kind of
Yeah.
thing.
You see type.
Yeah.
Then you see the fin.
The fin. Yeah.
Only to it. I'm sure that'll only attract more sharks.
I always have that thought. Well, that's how Jaws 2 got made.
All the sharks just convene.
Yeah.
They swim away quickly.
Yeah, he just pops. Yep. Hoover just pops back up.
And he doesn't have to say anything. He just says, "Quint, no." And then they're swimming toward the shore, and he says, "I used to hate the water. I can't imagine why." Talk about understatement.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get ready to do another 30 minutes where we're going to recap our Jaws watch party with Jacob Everett of the Apocalypse Confidential. Where can people find that? What's the URL for that, Jacob?
It is apocalypse-confidential.com.
Right on. And where can people find you? Yeah, go ahead.
We're on Twitter at, all, I don't think it mattered. Maybe it does matter if it's all uppercase, but ApocCon _mag on Twitter. And then on Twitter also, I am Blower _Geist.
Mm-hmm. And I can't emphasize, I'm dead serious. Apocalypse Confidential is like the coolest thing happening right now in sort of indie literature. So I'm stoked about what you guys are doing. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, boys, they killed a shark. They swim to the shore.
And there's that beautiful 70s font again.
Oh, yeah. There we go. We get to see it. One more time.
Love that font. Yeah. What an incredible film. What a joy to watch with you guys. And we're gonna chat a little more. You can get the After Dark episodes by subscribing to our Patreon. We hope you do. It's at patreon.com/artofdarkpod. And if you do, you might not need a bigger boat.
You might not.
No.
Maybe we can get a bigger boat, Kevin.
Yeah, subscribe to the Patreon so we can get a bigger boat.
Yeah.
All right.
Beautiful.
All right, we'll see you on the After Dark. Dude.